Salik, I don't know if the question I've put has been already put to her. I came in a little late.
No, it isn't. But
Shariar will get to you.
For her to come back.
Yeah, she's back. So Shariar, please go ahead and ask the question.
Mariam, this is Shariar Ahmed. We met when I brought the Aman Foundation to Boston a few years ago with SM. How are you?
Nice to connect again.
Lovely to see you again. I just had a very quick question. My kids are actually studying in schools in Pakistan, and I'm in a unique place. I've grown up in America, and my mother taught me Urdu by her own hand every day when I would come home from school. So I was blessed that way. But I have to be honest to you, I don't want my kids learning science in Urdu. I want them to learn Urdu, but I'd rather they learn science in English. So I mean,
science
I don't
is in
understand.
English.
Sorry?
Science is in English.
So which language, I mean, what is the difference then? I mean, if my kid is going to grammar school or private schools in Karachi, I mean, I know Sindh has already said we're not playing ball, but if they were playing ball, what would be the change?
So that's a different question. Let's talk about the first question. And that illustrates how much misinformation is out there. Science is a subject in grades 4 and 5. Science and math are to be taught in English, irrespective of the kind of school. General knowledge, which is a subject in grades 1, 2, 3, is a subject which is a composite of social studies, science, and economics. जो आगे जाके separate subjects बनते हैं. General knowledge is in Urdu. And but this is not the case कि आपके बच्चे को science उर्दू में पढ़नी पड़ेगी. आपके बच्चे, like I said, कि अगर वो general knowledge का subject उर्दू में पढ़ता है, उसे transition में problem होगी. ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम उन बच्चों को होगी जिनको साइंस अंग्रेजी में पहली दफा समझ नहीं है, सिर्फ रट्टा नहीं लगाना. उस तरह के बच्चे बहुत ज्यादा हैं. So first of all, let's clarify that science is not to be taught in Urdu. And your second question was Sindh is not playing ball. That's also not true, because when the curriculum was being made, Sindh was very much a part of the process. In fact, government of Pakistan ka official partner university is Aga Khan University Institute of Education, which is based in Karachi. The Citizens Foundation is a very close partner for grades 6 to 8, जो अभी काम हो रहा है, headquartered in Karachi. And Sindh की government ने अपने official representatives भेजे थे in the making of the curriculum. Now, जब तक तो education की बात हो रही थी, Sindh was fully on board. जब बीच में सियासत आ गई, elections coming up, वो actually implement हो रहा था. There was PTI was like Imran Khan is doing the launch. Then political parties, then they were like, "Nahin, we're not on board." And at the same time, they have said कि आपका literacy numeracy का science का curriculum is fine. There are some parts of it, उनके specifically मैं आपको objections बता देती हूँ, जिस पे federal government has clarified. उन्होंने कहा हम सिंधी में पढ़ाना चाहते हैं. मैंने अभी पहले बात की है कि आप रीजनल लैंग्वेजेस में पढ़ा सकते हैं. उन्होंने कहा हम अर्ली ईयर्स को 1 साल नहीं 2 साल रखना चाहते हैं. आप रखें, मिनिमम स्टैंडर्ड है. आप 3 साल रखना चाहते हैं, आप रख सकते हैं. उन्होंने कहा हम मलाला को पढ़ाना चाहते हैं. इकबाल मसीह who was a child laborer, जो bonded modern day slavery का, वो he was the hero. He was killed at the age of 12 by the mafia, the carpet mafia. कहते हैं हम उसके बारे में पढ़ाना चाहते हैं. Government said absolutely you can, because it's a minimum standard. और उस minimum standard में अब्दुल सत्तार ईवी, जिनका predominant work कराची से start हुआ था, is in the core curriculum. Every kid across Pakistan will learn about. So उन्होंने ये काम कुरान नाजरा नहीं पढ़ाना चाहते, क्योंकि सिंध की प्रोविंशियल असेंबली ने कुरान नाजरा एक्ट पास नहीं की. That's fine. Even पंजाब और केपी में अगर ये हो रहा है, गिलगित में, एजेके में, आईसीटी में, और अब बलोचिस्तान में उनका एकेडमिक ईयर लेट स्टार्ट होता है, that's why they are lagging. But अगर हो रहा है तो ये फेडरल की तरफ से इम्पोज नहीं हो रहा, उनकी प्रोविंशियल असेंबलीज इसको पास कर रही हैं as law. So yeah, Sindh is now put the foot on the brake. Okay, wait a minute. 18th amendment को तो आए 11 साल हो गए हैं. उन्होंने इतना ही मतलब उनको या तो को बेहतर करिकुलम देना, ना बेहतर करिकुलम लेकर आए. अब एक फेडरल बना रहा है और उसमें प्रोविंसेस के साथ बना रहा है, उनके साथ बनाया है, खुद भी वो भी नहीं लेना, तो फिर सिंधी लोग पूछेंगे कि क्या आपके लड़काना में, आपके बदीन में, आपके जैकबाबाद में डिस्पैरिटी जो है, व्हाट्स द प्लान फॉर फिनिशिंग दैट, व्हाट्स द प्लान फॉर रिड्यूसिंग दैट? सो इट्स a little bit broad brushstroke to say कि जी Sindh has said no thank you. Right now there is a little bit of politics going on with it, unfortunately. I hope that people rise above it, because these are curricular reforms, education reforms, and no one party should hijack
I'm afraid my question was a little different. Mariam, what I wanted to say was, in a private setting, why don't I have the choice which language my child studies in?
Do you have that choice in the US? कि आप अपने बच्चे को जो है साइंस उर्दू में पढ़ाना चाहते हैं, इंग्लिश में नहीं पढ़ाना चाहते?
If my child goes to school in an Islamic school, yes, he can study Arabic.
No,
You can send your kid to.
You can study Arabic.
Mariam, let me correct
high
you.
school का जो एग्जाम है, चाहे आपका जो कॉमन कोर है अमेरिका का, 12 साल से वो एग्जिस्ट करता है, अभी तक उन्होंने उसको रिफाइन नहीं किया.
Mariam, that is not
होम
true.
स्कूल भी अगर करें,
Mariam, that is not true. Mariam, that's not true. You have Spanish schools in the US where the language is totally in Spanish. So that's not true. You can choose a Spanish school, and in which case you'll study totally in Spanish.
I understand that. आपके पास चॉइस है लैंग्वेज ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शन की, आप ठीक है, आप कर लें पूरा, आप अरबिक में आप होम स्कूल करें, लेकिन आपका SAT जो यूनिवर्सिटी एग्जाम है वो आपके लिए अलग से स्पेनिश में नहीं बनेगा.
Right, but
that's not what I'm asking.
The language of instruction you can choose in the US.
ठीक है, point taken कि वहां पर लैंग्वेज ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शन पर there is more flexibility, but आपका the predominant thrust is that parents who are over there, how many of you have opted कि आपके बच्चे वहां पर Arabic speaking schools में निकलें और सिर्फ Arabic बोल सकें या सिर्फ उर्दू बोल सकें? You are raising your kid bilingual.
खाली बात कर रहा हूँ ना, पब्लिक स्कूल में आप करें जैसे आप चाहें, but in a private setting when I'm paying for the service, why should Imran Khan or anybody else decide what language my child studies in? This is against freedom of speech and freedom of.
No, let me explain. देखिए, एक तो I disagree with the premise because you can pay for it, therefore you should have the choice. I think if it makes sense from an education perspective, it shouldn't matter if your parent is rich or poor. The policy is, research says children who grow up bilingual or children who learn in their local language or mother tongue get the content, especially in early years. That's what research says. Parental demand, KP में for instance, 6 साल पहले उन्होंने सारे स्कूल्स को इंग्लिश मीडियम कर दिया था. पेरेंटल डिमांड इज, मेरे बच्चे को चाहे रट्टे में साइंस सिखाएं अंग्रेजी में, लेकिन आपने अंग्रेजी मीडियम ही करना है, राइट? सो this is two very different ends to the same question, and a very unhappy middle after a lot of deliberation in the government was to say, okay, half the subjects will be in English, half will be in Urdu or regional language. Now, your point would perhaps make sense अगर आप कहें कि जी by teaching half the subjects in a different language, my kid is not learning English. That's not how languages work. Kids grow up multilingual all the time, bilingual much more easily. So from an education perspective, I can tell you that having a bilingual school does not impact your child's conceptual understanding. In fact, if you have ever learned a foreign language, you will see that learning the same concept, describing the same thing in a foreign language adds more complexity to your own brain, even as an adult. आपका दूसरा point कि जी I should be allowed to send my child to a school जहां पर मुझे choice हो, is exactly the same point जो मदरसा owners लेते हैं कि जी मेरी choice है, मैं नहीं चाहता मेरा बच्चा साइंस पढ़े, मैं चाहता हूं मेरा बच्चा हाफिज बने, नहीं चाहता मैं. आप कौन होते हैं? आप तो पैसे की बात कर रहे हैं ना कि आप अमीर हैं इसलिए आपने पैसे दिए हैं, 30,000 रुपया फीस दी है. वो कहता है जी मैं इमरान खान को नहीं मानता, मेरा तो बच्चा जन्नत कमा रहा है यहाँ पे. हाफिज होके पिछली 7 जनरेशन को उसने जन्नत पे इंश्योर करना है, तो उसकी आर्ग्यूमेंट तो बहुत स्ट्रांग है, आपकी तो सिर्फ फाइनेंशियल बेस्ड है. So this kind of logic is not unique to private schools, but the government does have a role to play कि बच्चा जिस भी school of thought से आ रहा है, there are some education people who get to decide what's good for the child. And I mean, sure, हम पाकिस्तान के कुछ हैं स्कूल जैसे दूसरे ममालिक में, इराक में है, उनका भी लेटर आया हुआ था कि हमारे एम्बेसी के स्कूल्स हैं, उधर सिंगल नेशनल करिकुलम अप्लाई होता है, और जैसे अगर यूएस एम्बेसी के कोई स्कूल यहाँ हो, उधर नहीं होगा, उधर यूएस का कॉमन कोर होगा, आप फिर अपने बच्चे को उस स्कूल के साथ अफिलिएट कर लें. That's how it works. And the state does have a responsibility towards every child, because this child, even if they're a dual national, they are a Pakistani national.
You see, the problem is the state is not providing proper education in the public schools. Why don't you fix that first before screwing up the private schools?
No, I think that's a slightly inappropriate language to ask in a formal setting. But nonetheless, the government is.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean it as an affront, but that's the common thought process that's happening here.
Chale, that's a rhetorical question, because the response to that is that the impact of this policy is predominantly on madrasas and public schools. आपके बच्चे को तो इस्लामियात उर्दू में पढ़नी पड़ रही है. Is that the pain point? इस्लामियात और पहले 3 साल एक सब्जेक्ट उर्दू में पढ़ना पड़ रहा है. That's the pain point for you?
Mariam, I
want my child to study the language that I want them to study.
Okay, so I think Salek has his hand raised.
My point is just simply कि just imagine that the transition that private schools have to make is a very difficult one. But आपका जो point है ना कि पहले public schools को ठीक करें, ये policy जब मदारिस में हम लेकर आ रहे हैं, it's much harder to do that, but they are ready for this change. तो आप अच्छे स्कूलों में आपके बच्चे पढ़ते हैं, आप अफोर्डिंग हैं, आपके बच्चों के पास टेक्नोलॉजी का एक्सेस है, आप खुद बायलिंगुअल हैं, आपके बच्चों ने बाहर भी जाना है. I mean, और ये सारे बच्चे एक ही बोट के बाशिंदे हैं. अगर कश्ती डूबेगी तो इकट्ठे डूबेंगे. इन्होंने इसी मुल्क में चाहे बाहर भी रहेंगे, इन्होंने इसी पब्लिक स्कूल के निकले लोगों को लेबर क्लास के साथ काम करना है. So they have to learn to communicate with one another. It's
Mariam,
better for them.
I didn't want this to be confrontational at all. I
Well,
simply say that I'm trying to dial it back. I'm just saying we don't have a lot of faith in the central government of this country, living in this country.
That's a different problem. That's not
So entrust them to indoctrinate my child is something that's a big stretch right now, you see.
I agree. Indoctrination का सवाल different होता है. आपने indoctrination पे सवाल नहीं पूछा था. We can talk about indoctrination, but I think we should give other people a chance.
I think we should move on to the other people who have their hands raised. Salek, you have your hand raised. Please go ahead.
First of all, I don't envy you, Dr. Chughtai, for